Memorial Day is connected obviously to our veterans, and we are having just a slew of cases that we're having to defend because there's a lot of imagery connected with our veterans that are religious, like crosses, and Stars of David. You'll see these in cemeteries around the country and around the world that are U.S. cemeteries for our fallen heroes. It's littered throughout the history of our country. The cross is a symbol of sacrifice, and the ACLU and some of these groups, the atheist groups, don't want there to be crosses. They don't want them to be in public. They want them taken down.
America has fought many wars to defend freedom on many fronts, and one of the most important liberties that countless Americans have laid down their life for is the freedom of religion. But I'll tell you that every GI who put on the uniform did so in part to uphold the right of his fellow Americans and the Americans that would follow him to have the freedoms that our Constitution was meant to preserve. And among the most important of those, the first liberty in our Constitution, is the free exercise of our religion.
It's often been noted that it's the soldier that keeps us free. And sometimes when soldiers return from overseas, they'll build memorials to honor their fallen brethren. Some of these memorials include religious symbols, and that is anathema to groups like the ACLU or the American Humanist Association.
To have the constant attacks on religious liberty within the military is especially egregious. When they have our backs defending our religious liberty, the very least that we can do is stand up for them as well and take their backs in terms of being able to express themselves within the Corps as well. Why do we have secularist and atheist organizations in this country so intent on telling our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine how to mourn, how to remember those that have fallen with them?
These attacks that we're seeing are not usually against the Muslim faith, they're not usually against the Buddhist faith, they're not against the Jewish faith, they're attacks against Christianity in particular. This approach of the ACLU, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, etc., is an attempt to really change our country to something it never was, and I hope never will be.
The secularists' fight against religious symbols, such as memorial crosses, came to a showdown last year at the U.S. Supreme Court in a battle over a World War I memorial cross in Maryland, which an atheist group had sued to have removed.
In 1917, before most of you fighting men were born, our fathers fought the First World War to make the world safe for democracy, for the common man.
Well, the Bladensburg World War I Veterans Memorial has been there since 1925, when men with the American Legion dedicated that to 49 men from Prince George's County, Maryland, who died defending freedom. It was their mothers who designed that memorial back in 1919. They wanted a memorial to remember their sons who had sacrificed everything in service of this country. And they mimicked the design of the gravestones that their sons were buried under in Europe. And so it stood there without any complaint until about 5 years ago, when some atheist groups got together and decided that the presence of that memorial on public property is offensive and violating the Constitution. The Fourth Circuit has agreed with them.
An ironic twist in this case of the Bladensburg Cross is that originally it was constructed on private land which was acquired some 35 years later by the government through eminent domain so that the highway could be widened.
It's interesting, when this memorial was actually erected and dedicated, it was dedicated on property owned by the American Legion. And they've been the ones that have been maintaining it ever since then, really, until about the 1960s, when the highway had to be expanded. When the time came for that highway to be expanded, there was some discussion as to whether or not that memorial would stay there or not. And there was an outcry by the people of Bladensburg. Of course they were going to keep that memorial. That's how they remembered their sons who had gone off to war in Prince George's County and never came back. And so they refused to take it down and instead just built the highway around it. And it's been there ever since as a silent beacon of hope and memory to the men who died serving our country. These men had dedicated themselves in battle, they had dedicated themselves in war, and they preserved our freedom by sacrificing everything that they had. And so it falls to us right now to choose how we're going to remember them in the future. Their mothers wanted them to be remembered by this memorial. Men like John Henry Seaborn, an African-American soldier who served in a segregated unit during the battle, during the war, died in service to his country in a segregated army, and yet he's right there unified with black and white soldiers on that memorial. That's an untold story in history.
In a recent video, First Liberty featured John Henry Seaborn's niece. She cherished the memory of the uncle she never knew.
He was in love with a girl across the street, and they planned to get married.
But John Seaborn sailed to France for the World War.
He was young, 16, went into the service and never returned.
Nearly 100 years ago, a group of moms built this to memorialize the 49 lost boys of Bladensburg. But today, some people want to destroy it.
These are men that otherwise the world would not know anything about. But because they gave everything, they served this country faithfully, all they ask in return, or really all their mothers ask in return, is that we remember them by this memorial.
The other side said that this cross violates the Constitution because supposedly it establishes religion. But on June 20, 2019, the Supreme Court decided 7-2 that the cross can remain. This case was called American Legion v. American Humanist Association.
Well, the decision in the American Legion versus AHA was a landmark decision for religious liberty. When the court, in the majority opinion, said that religiously expressive monuments, symbols, and practices are now presumptively constitution, the court shifted the burden around and not only said that these veterans memorials and like that are part of our history, part of our heritage, and are an important part of our country. No longer can someone just drive by, find themselves offended, and tear down the memorials through a lawsuit.
Writing for the majority, Justice Samuel Alito wrote, "A government that roams the land, tearing down monuments with religious symbolism and scrambling any reference to the divine will strike many as aggressively hostile to religion."
The court has now said that these types of memorials are part of our history, they're part of our heritage. We shouldn't be surprised that we have religious symbols and monuments in a country that has been a very religious country filled with a religious people. It's perfectly acceptable to have religious symbols and monuments interspersed with secular symbols and monuments throughout our country. I think the Supreme Court made a very good decision to say those are now going to be presumptively constitutional.